During my school days, I would be waiting for him to come home. Usually he would be late, but I would be next to the door um, on the sofa. And sometimes I used to fall asleep because he used to come home at 9:10. So that was my earliest memories. And growing up, that's how that became a general pattern. One of my precious routines during my childhood was going for early morning walks with my dad around the Calcutta Taliganj Lake. And we would share tidbits about each other's daily occurrences, what happened the day before, what we were going to plan that day, what were happening in each other's life. And that time during the day that I spent daily with him was the most precious time for me. And he, even in his busiest days, he would always carve out that time that we shared together around the lake. Another beautiful memory that I have with my dad is in our country home in Shonarpur, which is suburbs of Kolkata in India, where my grandparents used to live. And with my dad, I used to go for walks. We used to wander through the forests. And he taught me how to feel this ground beneath. So we would walk barefoot, and we would relish the sensation of the soft, velvety clay under our feet. And that feeling, that grounding, at that time I didn't realize it was grounding, but that stayed with me throughout. That connection with Mother Earth, that connection with him, connection with the forest. He taught me how to skip stones on the glassy surface of the village pond. He taught me how to dance in the rain, get wet in the first drench of the rain. My father came, his childhood was in Barishal, which was part of India prior to the partition of India, Pakistan, and now it's part of Bangladesh. And the stories I've heard about him is that he used to go to school and he would be reading every day prior to school. He would go to a newspaper stand and read newspapers. He was such a voracious reader. It started from that early age. He needed to read everything he could lay his hands on, any book, any newspaper, any magazine. And he retained, he had amazing razor sharp memory, and he could retain everything he read. And later on, he wrote articles, wrote books. He was by profession an engineer. He was the chief engineer that built the railways in Kolkata, the metro railways. And after that, he got into writing. And he wrote books. He wrote a book on metro railway, the entire construction aspect and the political and the challenges of building the metro rail in Kolkata. So my father was also a very, very loving, caring person. He had this tremendous love for everyone near and dear to him. I remember once I went to Kolkata with my children, and he had transformed his home into a zoo. He had dug out a pond in the back of the house where there were turtles floating. He had cages of birds, of rabbits. He had a bucket full of crabs. He had puppies, cats. I mean, who would do that for anyone? But that's how he was. He would go all out. So this boundless love that he had for his near and dear ones was amazing. And also he had this amazing sense of humor. And once I remember some Russians had visited us, and my mother made this luchi, puri, which is like a dough that is fried and it puffs up into like a ball. And these Russians had never seen that before. They asked, how did you get it to swell up like this? And my father said, oh, with a bicycle pump. So that was his response, quick response. So that's his sense of humor and how he pulled in people emotionally with his sense of humor and love. So
Nita,
yeah.
so it sounds like he was a very vibrant person, very engaged and very full of life, and that you had a very close bond and connection with him. So
Yeah.
how did you start noticing the changes in him? When did you begin to see the signs of things being not quite right?
Yeah. So the signs, it started, I would say, before he was formally diagnosed, because dementia is typically, Alzheimer's dementia, typically things, issues that can, starts in the brain long before it is obvious, right? If it is, or it is diagnosed. There were cases like I would call him from US and tell him about things. And then next time I called him, he would ask me again. He had forgotten what I told him. So this sort of things I started noticing as early as 2010, 11, 12. He would have mood swings. He would, once I remember my mother was very upset because 20,000 rupees, which is equivalent to $250, was missing from the bank. And later on, it was found that he had written a check to a temporary maid who was working just for a few days. So she conned him and he got easily conned. So his judgment was not in its right state. And another time, he forgot his way home. He got lost. So these sort of things which we did not expect in him were some of the signs. Finally, in 2014, he was having terrible headaches, and none of the doctors could figure out what the issue was. And finally went to a neurospecialist. And that neurospecialist identified that he had uh, he was having vascular dementia, and that was identified through MRI scan. So
So
yeah.
how long of a time span would you say that was from the time you noticed the little things until the actual diagnosis?
Uh, so I would say it spanned from 2010, 2011. So it was a span of about 4 years, because in 2014 he was officially diagnosed.
Okay. And at the time you were living in the US, so it was also hard for you to see the day-to-day changes, correct?
Yeah, it was. So the journey, I mean, uh, in the days that we were suspecting something is wrong, we didn't really take it that seriously because he was so full of fun and joy most of the time. He was doing things, he was writing. But then my mother started noticing his writing was not that coherent. He was repeatedly writing the same thing. So he notified us. And in one of the trips that I went, I also saw certain things. But when it was formally diagnosed, that was terrible. Though we had suspected, you're never prepared. Even though you suspect, you never accept. You always are in denial. So for me to support my mother through this journey from US was not easy. And to your question as to how it was in the US, how I did, we were on the phone all the time discussing things. And there were situations where there was a situation where my mother collapsed. And then my brother had to rush because I from the US didn't get the time off to go. And but emotionally and mentally, it was a turmoil to see that my mother had to be hospitalized. My father was home alone in his state of dementia, which was tough to handle. So we had many such incidents where long distance, like supporting and going through it, was tough, and I had to rush to India sometimes, leaving my kids, my family. So yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah. I have a question. So Nita, when I was reading your book, you take us through a beautiful journey of how intelligent your dad was, like leading a whole metro train railway project in Kolkata,
Yeah.
not an easy feat. And and maybe I was when I was reflecting that, and I was like, with him being such an intelligent man with so many diverse interests and creative
Mm.
interests outside work and everything, it was very hard for me to comprehend like a person like that could have dementia. Like
Mhm.
they are so actively using their brain. What would you talk about that?
Uh, there is no if you see dementia, so what it is, it has nothing to do with. So there are two aspects to your question, the response. One is that dementia has nothing to do with a person's career or a person's voracious reading, in the sense that my father, he had vascular dementia, which is where the brain cells start dying. So he had fluid a collection in his brain, and that fluid, the pressure of the fluid killed his brain cells. So when the MRI scan, the PET scan came, there were white patches because the cells had died out. And that's what caused his dementia. Now, for the second part of your question, yes. So I come from a family which, from my father's side, we have history of familial dementia. So my grandfather did not have, but his out of his 7 brothers and sisters, at least I think 4 or 5 of them had. Then my father, both his sisters had Alzheimer's. So the difference I see, based on what you said, is that my aunts, they retired early. My younger aunt, she never worked. She was a housewife. And so what happened was that she um, developed dementia, I think, in her 60s, mid 60s. My other aunt, who was a professor and retired at the age of 60, started showing signs of dementia late 60s, early 70s. So and my father showed it late 70s. So what's happening is, the more active a person is, the more he can have a relatively normal life. So this is my advice: is if you retire, be active, reading, studying, doing something else, like learning a new language, learning to dance, physically active, mentally active, leading a healthy life, healthy food habits, meditation, yoga. These are the things. My father did all that, and that's why I think he developed it so late in life.
Mm-hmm.
So since you kind of touched on that, Nita, did your aunts have the same kind of dementia? And what's the difference between dementia, Alzheimer's, and just aging and forgetting the random thing, or not just being not as quick and sharp as you used to be due to old age?
Yeah. So dementia is actually not a disease. Dementia is the umbrella. Alzheimer is a disease. Vascular dementia is a kind of dementia. There is frontal lobe dementia. There is dementia due to Parkinson's. There are various Lewy body dementia. There are different forms of dementia, the causes. So dementia is the umbrella of all the causes that create cognitive issues in people, right? So both my aunts had Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's, the difference is that Alzheimer's is due to, so what our cells, our brain is built up of billions, 100 billions of neurons, right? The brain cells, which are called neurons. And there are connectors between these neuron cells. Now, when these connectors get impacted due to maybe protein deposition, which is known as beta amyloid protein, that deposition causes fraying of the connections, or there could be twisting of the cells because of tau protein. And these variations, these various kinds of chemical imbalance in the brain that impacts our connections between the neurons is what causes Alzheimer's.
And is there a specific age? Has age to do anything with it? Like,
no, I know people who have got dementia at the age of 40, generally. But there is another part that you have touched upon is with age as well. You can have dementia because what happens is our brain cells can, because these protein formation that is causing Alzheimer's or different kind of issues can happen in people at any age, right? And you might lead a normal life even despite having those because the impact is low, or it could be very high and then you will show signs of dementia. Whereas aging and dementia, there's a difference, right? So the simplest way of explaining the difference between them is like a computer. A computer, if you're using for a long time, the computer's performance goes down, right? That is like aging. The computer's performance is going weaker and weaker. But if in a computer the files start disappearing, the CPU or something gets damaged, then it cannot. Then it is disrupted. The computer is disrupted, right? It cannot perform at all. So that's, for me, in simple language, the difference between dementia and aging. Yeah. So some signs are like, for example, forgetfulness, right, is a typical thing. A cognitive issue we can say is forgetfulness. But with aging also people have forgetfulness. But as long as that forgetfulness is not disruptive in the sense that it does not, it is something that you forgot. You might have misplaced your glasses or misplaced your cell phone, but then later on you try to figure out, trace it where it could be where. The fact that you remember that you forgot something itself means it's not something serious like dementia. Whereas when you completely forgot, for example, my father once forgot his keys. I was that time visiting him, and I had my laptop, my passport, all kept in the almirah, and he couldn't even recollect he had taken the keys after locking it. He couldn't even recollect that he had kept it somewhere. We never found the keys. We had to break open the almirah. So that's the difference.
Wow. So it's like the memory completely wipes off. It's like your brain, that neural network is not even there to send that information back.
Yes. That gap is too much. Yeah.
Beautiful. I would like to pivot a little bit, and I just wanting to understand, like, you having to witness all of this, knowing your dad as the person he was, your hero, in many ways, and then watching him fade away, his memory fade away, and him struggling through all of these challenges, and seeing your mom struggle, and then you being so far away when they were going through, or so I just want to tap into you, like, what was your journey like?
Yeah, so I can talk about two parts. One is the journey, is the preparation, how we dealt with this long distance caring. Another is my emotional spiritual journey. So I will talk about the preparation first, then I'll come to the spiritual journey. So the preparation for long distance care is very different from when your a loved one going through dementia is with you, right? Because there the person is in close proximity. For us, my brother was that time living in Delhi, and later on he moved to the US, and I was in US. So the only person who was in close proximity was my mother, and she was also aging, right? So we had to come up when we, in 2014, when we realized that my father had dementia. He had been diagnosed by the doctor, and we realized that we had to, that it was not going to improve, but get worse and worse as time passed. We had to prepare for it in advance, because we couldn't just let my mother swim through it all alone. So we put together a plan. And another thing that was very important to us was, while my father was still lucid, to get his inputs. We wanted him to have inputs in this journey that he was going to go through. The thing that worked in favor for us is we were not new to this. Both my aunts had gone through it, and many other relatives, and my father was familiar with it. He knew. So it was not that he was going to deny it. He knew that it was going to happen. So he was matter of fact about it. So that worked for us. Because I know many people who are in denial and they refuse to take the necessary steps. My father was open to it. So we put together a plan. First and foremost, we took into consideration his emotional, his physical need, his wants, his desires, what he wanted. So simple thing like he said he wanted only home care. He did not want to be moved out of the home into a care facility. So that we recognized, and we adhered to that wish of his, because later on he would not be able to understand what was going on. But we knew what would make him happy, because that was for us the most important thing, is to consider how to retain their dignity, how to retain their happiness. That's very important, because even though they might be gone physically, mentally, emotionally, they are there. Their feelings, their love, their emotions, they're there. Their soul is there. So you have to respect that. So we, based on that, we put together the plan. We had to take care of the legal aspects, the financial aspects. How would we deal with the care plan? How would we deal with caregivers? Because my mother initially could take care, but later on, what would happen? So we had to plan for that financially as well as logistically. So these were some of the things we did. And then we also put together a very strong support system. My cousin, whose mother had Alzheimer's, she lived in Kolkata. She was a doctor. So she became our first support line. Whenever my mother had any questions, whenever my father was not feeling well, she immediately came and checked upon him. So that was support. Another thing is support in the neighborhood. It is very important, because my father would walk out of the house when he is in a normal state. And then halfway while walking, he would lose. He would forget. He would not know what's happening. He would get confused. People in the neighborhood, if they didn't know, they would not treat him with dignity. So we made sure that the people in our neighbors, even the local people at the stalls, the vendors, everyone knew what was going on. So we built this network of support system. We also included in that the doctors, the physiotherapists, because as it progresses, mobility is an issue. So you need physiotherapists. You need other kind of supports that will will be needed. We also established an emergency plan that if something happened middle of the night, what would be our emergency strategy? So various support systems were put in place for these as part of this plan of preparation. Now, second part of your question was the emotional journey. So I was always my father's, what do I say? I was daddy's little girl. And for me, he was my support. He was my best friend. He was the person I went to for any kind of advice, guidance. So now it was very painful to watch him slowly disappear in front of my eyes, right? The enigmatic, the charismatic, the dynamic person becoming this helpless, confused soul. It was really tough. I remember he also used to get lost. He used to have hallucinations. Once I remember we were journeying from one place back to our home. It was quite late. It was a journey of like 4-5 hours. And he was sitting in the front of the car and I was behind him. And he suddenly started hallucinating because I suddenly realized the driver was very confused with what my dad was telling him. And I leaned in to listen to them. And he was telling the driver, hey, all these ammunitions, we have to take it to the camp. And you guys, you have to drop these people who are sitting behind wherever they want to go. And then we have to finish our work. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on? Then that's when I realized he had gone back to his territorial army days where he used to work and spend few months in the camp. And he was hallucinating. So now, for me, that was an emotional turmoil, how to deal with it. But then I got the inner strength to deal with it, and I pacified him and said, yes, we are going to take. I spoke to your whoever the leader and have told him that everything is under control. And so I had to play along with him. So these are the incidents which made me strong during this journey. There were many such incidents that used to happen, and I had to evolve along with this because it got worse and worse, right? With time. Then the day he stopped talking, he couldn't speak anymore. He forgot every word, and he was such a eloquent speaker. And that was another turmoil. So then I learned a different way of connecting with him through touch, through eyes, through expressions, to read him with the emotional changes that were visible on his face. So that helped me. That is another evolution that happened within me, to learn a different way of communicating, to recognize that you do not necessarily need words to communicate. You can communicate through love, through understanding, through feelings. So I would say that my inner shift happened in layers. First was grief, like I'm losing the person I knew. Then came the responsibility that I have to take on the duty, like the roles reversed. I have to now take care of him rather than him taking care of me. So that happened. So I stepped in along with my mother and my brother to take that responsibility. And the final layer was that spiritual aspect, in the sense that I got this inner strength. Where did that strength come from? Because to know how to deal with the situation, you have to lean into your inner soul, inner self. And that's when I realized dementia caregivers are actually caregivers of the soul, not the physical caregivers. They are the caregivers of the soul. So yeah, that was the spiritual journey transformation.
you're answering all our questions ahead of time, but it's such an emotional journey. So you are going through the grief of knowing that the father you knew is not the same person anymore. You are going through the disruption of your own life because I'm sure you had a job, you have a family here, you're living in a different country. You are going through the aspect of managing the relationships, your mother's fear. Your father, I'm sure, was going through his own fear and his own, I don't know, I don't even know how I would handle it if I had such a diagnosis. So you're managing all these things, and yet you have to muster your strength. You have to know the right thing to do, and you have to carry on. So, what kept you in your center? Where did you get your strength? And how did you navigate this? Who cared for Nita, or how did Nita care for Nita?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, the way, I mean, initially it was not that tough, but as time evolved, it got tougher because of the fact that my father was, I was completely, he transformed, right? Initially, he was still, I could see pieces and bits of him. But suddenly, one day I realized he was gone. This was a different person altogether. And it was emotionally stressful. It was so, I did a few things that helped me along the journey. I and In 2018 or 2019, I decided that I needed self-therapy. So I enrolled for hypnotherapy classes. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. So I did that course because I realized not for giving others therapy, but I needed that therapy. So that really helped. So and through meditation, through self therapies, hypnosis, I helped myself a lot. Then another thing I did was I went for chakra classes. There was this lady in Palo Alto who was running a session. She was like a spiritual lady. And I attended her 7 chakra classes to cleanse my inner chakras because there's so much turmoil, so much stress that you hold inside you, right? And you need to cleanse them. You need to release the negative aspects and bringing the positive energy. And so that is another thing I had to do. And meditation, yoga. So one story I wanted to say, how powerful these things are. So that was when my father was in the early stage. He was going through mild dementia phase. And in my one of my trips, I could see he was showing the signs of mild dementia. He was getting worse. And 6 months later, I visited him again, and I found he was in a better state. It was like as if things had reversed. And I was so taken aback. I said, wow, so he's improving, which I have not heard dementia people have. So I asked my mother, I said, what did you do? What's going on? She said that my father had joined her in her morning pranayam and yoga classes. So every day, 1 hour of pranayam and yoga actually reversed some of the effects of dementia. So how powerful these things are is, I would say, everyone should do it, irrespective of dementia or not. It's so powerful. And I have seen that firsthand in my dad.
So, we're a meditation community. So we believe
Yeah.
in meditation. And
Yes.
You know, there was a study that was released by the University of San Diego and Dr. Joe Dispenza on November 10th about the effects of meditation on not only the brain, but on the body. So it actually creates physical changes in the body when the meditation is done consistently for an extended period of time. And they were able to show that the body produces chemicals, so it creates its own pharmacy, and
Mhm.
chemicals are produced by meditation alone. And so I think this is very promising
Mm,
for all of us who are
mm.
hoping to avoid getting any kind of dementia and who are inevitably going to have to care for someone who's sick or have to deal with some kind of stress. But
Yeah.
in your experience, was meditation something you relied on consistently, or was it just
Um,
done
i-
sporadically?
I can, for me in those days, I wouldn't say I did it consistently. I tried and I have done it mostly, but I wouldn't say daily. But my mother followed it consistently. And today she's 90 and she's totally cognitively strong.
So you mentioned to me also that music was effective in communicating with your dad. Do you want to
Yes,
tell us a
thanks for
little?
bringing that up. Yes. So my father had this tremendous love for music since his childhood. He sang amazingly well. And my childhood was full of his voice resonating throughout the house, either with laughter or with music, singing. And whenever my aunts, my uncles, people, all these brothers and sisters got together, that's what they did, sing. Unfortunately, I'm not a good singer, so I can't sing, but that was part of our family growing up. Everyone almost sang except me and my mother. We don't have the voice to sing, but rest did. And we had the love for music, but my father was. So it's amazing that one by one he lost everything. Like first he started forgetting, then he uh, couldn't walk, his mobility he lost, then he forgot how to dress up, how to wear his clothes. But music, if someone sang incorrect tune, he would immediately get upset and catch it, even though he couldn't speak properly, even though he couldn't move properly. He remembered every tune of every song that he used to sing in his throughout his life prior to dementia. And so we used music as a therapy as well. So my mother hired a music teacher during the early stages of dementia so that my father could practice and keep up his musical aspiration, so that that would help his brain stay, stay normal longer. So music is an amazing therapy for dementia. And my father, the last thing he lost was music. So yeah, I think that was the last thread. Even when he forgot us, he would not forget music.
We have a question here in chat from
Mhm.
Krishna. Can you share any suggestions on how to convince a person who is in denial of dementia to go to a doctor for MRI or a diagnosis?
Um, so does the person have any kind of issues? Like, why do you want to take the person? Is the person showing signs of dementia?
Yes, this is Krishnanand here.
Hi.
So, hi, thanks for sharing your experience and your journey. It's been really
Mm.
amazing, the insights. So, in my case, my uncle and aunt, my aunt passed away due to dementia. My uncle currently has severe
Oh,
dementia, so it's in the family.
okay.
And what I and my brother have been noticing is my mom has certain symptoms right now. It's in very early stages.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't realize that, but we do see the difference over the last 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So, just as a precaution, we thought that
Yeah.
we could take her to a doctor and get it checked out to make sure she has the right diagnosis and we are taking care of
Yes.
her. So, but the problem we are finding is she's in a state of denial. Like she refuses to go to a doctor saying nothing is wrong. You guys keep forget. She's kind of confusing dementia related forgetfulness with uh,
Aging.
regular forgetfulness
Aging.
associated with
Yes.
aging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she is seeing family members going through it, and still she is in denial. Okay.
Yes.
So I would say, I mean, does she have a PCP, primary care doctor, general doctor that she goes to?
Yes, she does. We even I even took her to the PCP this time when I went. I was there last month,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the same story. She told him that I don't have anything. He referred her to a neurologist, and she refused
Mm-hmm.
to go to the neurologist, saying, "I'm fine. I don't want to get an MRI done. I'm
Yeah, this is,
fearful of closed MRI, so I won't do it."
yeah. So there are other ways of diagnosing other than MRI. Which I do not know if you're familiar with MOCA. There are quite a few other tests which I can share with you. It's also in my book, where which are like you can just playfully go through these. It's like games, and that also diagnoses the level of dementia. So, and another thing I would say, since you suspect dementia, you have to immediately make lifestyle changes that really help. So, as I said, some things like pranayama and yoga, I'm hoping she's doing regularly. You can make lifestyle changes too, because there aren't any cure for dementia. Even if you're diagnosed, doctors might give some medication, but there's no true cure. The best thing you can do is make lifestyle changes. Food is very, very important. It is said that food has direct link to our brain. So if you eat correctly, the right food, healthy food, you can have normal brain for a longer period. So make lifestyle changes for a mom, and physically make sure she's physically active, exercising, going for walks, doing things, reading books, or if she is interested, anything, and social interaction. There are a lot of things that you can make lifestyle changes and do that immediately so that she can sustain her current state longer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, Nita. I mean, and just did your dad, like when he was, when he had his cognitive abilities, did he ever suspect that this might be coming for him? Or when he realized, or when the diagnosis was done, like, did he ever share like what was ahead of him and how and his fears around that?
No, he didn't share, in the sense we were, as I said, we come from a familial dementia, right? So we all were aware of all the cognitive. So we had already done some research. My uncle who took care of my aunt, my sister who took care of her mother. So we had long conversations with them, including my father, in all those conversations to make sure that he was fully aware of what was going on. So we were lucky that he was more of the accepting kind, who was more, he went along with us, went to the neurospecialist, went to doctors. So we didn't have the issue of having to convince him. We were in denial rather than him. So I wouldn't say that for us it was an issue with him accepting it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a emotional roller coaster. Like if and that's something like sometimes, it's my biggest fear as well, to witness a parent or a loved one who just
Mm.
loses all the cognitive abilities and they don't recognize you. And then, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So have you ever had those fears for yourself now that you're saying that they're in your genetic history?
Yes, yes, absolutely. My cousins, from my father's side, all of us cousins have the same fear. Not only that, even my son, my elder son at least. My younger one doesn't think about it, but my elder son has constant fear of it, to the extent that he's debating whether to have children or not, get married and have children or not, because he doesn't want to pass it on. So yeah, it is ingrained in us. We are worried, but not that we have done MRI or tested. I do sometimes conduct MOCA test and some other tests on myself, which are like questions that you can go through, and there are various kind of tests that you can go through yourself, which normally a dementia center, if you go to, they will run by you to check which level of dementia you are in. But sometimes I play around. So far, other than forgetfulness, I haven't felt it, but we live in fear. So that is why I push myself all the time to do things out of my comfort zone, to remain as cognitively strong as possible.
So, what are some of the things that you do? So, you mentioned
Yeah.
nutrition, you mentioned staying cognitively active. Do you, how do you keep your memories alive? And
Yeah.
how do you communicate to the people that you love and the people around you? How do you stay engaged, and how do you set yourself up for that possibility in the future?
Yeah. So
And also, I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask this
yeah,
as a
go
part two,
ahead.
but how do you also not live in fear and let that be the overwhelming experience instead of just living in the present day to day and letting what comes come down the line?
Yeah. So first I'll touch upon, you have asked different flavors. The first
Yes.
I'll touch upon is my daily life.
Mhm.
I have imposed certain things. Like, I do not know if you know about Dr. Sanjay Gupta and few other neurospecialists who has said, eat well, sleep well, and what is the third one? Walk well or something. It is basically saying that you have to, in order to have your stay away from dementia, have your cognitive sanity, you have to lead a very, very healthy life. So one of the things I do every morning is 1 hour or more of yoga, pranayam. That's part of my daily routine.
So
I
that's
don't.
breath work?
Hmm?
Breath work?
Yes, pranayam is breath work. Daily, I do that. So pranayam and yoga are my daily routine. A few times a week, I go to YMCA for a core exercise build up. So you have to build up your core strengths. Just walking is not enough. You have to do other exercises. So those are the focus. Then food wise, I have a regiment of eating regimen that I follow. So that is important. Food is important. And then, like writing books, which I was not meaning to become an author, but it was a way of pushing me out of my comfort zone to do something. So now I'm also starting to learn Spanish. So I am keeping my going for cognitive exercise. So body, stomach, cognitive exercise. These are some of the things that I am hoping. And another thing, which is the most important, which I suffer from, which can cause dementia, is a lack of proper sleep. So sleeping is so important. I can't stress upon it enough, because sleeping, not proper sleeping, can cause dementia. Absolutely. So I have sleep apnea. My younger son has sleep apnea. We tend to use CPAP machine. So anyone who has sleep issues, please check out what is the issue, what is causing it. Sleeping well is very important because our brain actually regenerates and removes toxicity during the sleep time. So you need that to happen every night, and your brain needs proper oxygen to function properly. So, yep, those are the things that I tend to do. Yeah.
Any supplements?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, absolutely. Supplements, the ones for the brain, there are many supplements. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell you all to take the supplements I take because you have to consult your doctor. But I typically take magnesium, D3, K2, B12, and few others. Yeah. Ashwagandha, they say, many people say, but I don't know if that is completely effective. But yeah, many people take ashwagandha also.
I've heard about mushroom supplements also help.
Oh yeah, lion's mane is very, very important. Thank you for reminding. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I haven't yet started on lion's mane, but that is on the top of my list to do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I'm curious, like, when did you realize that you need to write this book or you need to share the story?
Yeah, so the way it happened was that when I lost my dad, he it was during the COVID. So I couldn't be with him the last few months, nor was I there for his last rites because there was ban on travel to India during that time in 21. And so I don't think I got a closure. So I did suffer from it. And so I started capturing. It affected me tremendously. I couldn't work. I couldn't do many things that in a normal life. And I stopped working. Again, I went back to work, but I realized I had lost all interest in my work. And I wanted to hold on to him. So the only way I could do it was capturing all my thoughts, all my emotions, all my memories in writing. And that's how I started writing for myself, for my own release of this pain. And people would come to me and ask me, how was your journey? Can you give us some advice? Because we are going through similar journeys. So I started giving them guidance. And that's when I realized that this book doesn't have to be for me. It can be for others. So that's when I started capturing the caregiving aspects. So it's not only a memoir. Every chapter is split into two parts. The memoir part, my story with my dad, and then during that particular phase in my dad's life of dementia journey, what are the things we learned, what we did right, what we didn't do right, what are the helps we took, all that I captured. So this book just evolved, I would say. In last year, it just became a book for others as well.
Yeah, I really love the practical aspect of tips that you've shared on every stage of how this journey unfolded for you all. Yeah, and I've gone through, like, I've seen my mom transition, and that was the start of my spiritual journey when I went when I went through that journey of seeing my mom's age deteriorate, like her health deteriorate, and then finally she had to transition. And when she passed away, there were moments where I felt, that we are all so much more than the physical bodies, because I felt my mom. There were moments when I felt that she was there, she could listen to me, and I've had some experiences, so it's in those moments that I realize that, we are souls. We're not just souls on a human journey here and leaving this, this drama of human life. And then when we transition, did you ever had those kind of realizations or moments when you felt after your dad passed away, like he was still around, he was communicating?
Yeah. You're asking me a thing that I haven't shared with anyone because people wouldn't even understand. So it happened, I think, during one of those downturns when I was really emotionally down after I lost my dad completely he passed away. And I was losing him throughout his journey, pieces by pieces of him, but completely after he passed away. And I think a few months after that, I was really at one night, I just felt he was sitting next to me and he had this habit of touching my head and patting me on the head. And he did that even during the dementia phase. That was our connection. When he would pat my head, I knew that he was there inside, though externally he was not fully there. And in that, I felt, and it was so strong, that feeling that he was there in the room, sitting next to my bed and touching me, that I woke up thinking he really was there. And I wanted to reach out. And yes, I have felt that. And another time I felt it was after 1 year, I went to Benares for my father's 1 yearly ritual, right? You go and do the moksha for the soul in Benares. So I had gone there and I was sitting alone by the river bank. And I was like totally, I broke down into tears. It was dark. I was sitting at one of the ghats, which was very dark. But afar, there were all these lights and pujas and all going on. But I was sitting alone and I was crying. And that's when I felt my father's nickname was Vishwanath, which is Shiva's name, right? So my grandmother named him that because he was before him, my grandmother had two other kids, both of them died. So my grandmother prayed to Shiva and got my father. So that's why he was Vishwanath. So that's why we had gone to Benares and prayed to Shiva for his moksha and all. And I was sitting and I felt this inner, suddenly very peaceful. I do not know from where it came, but inside I felt completely at peace, completely as if there was something was engulfing me and giving me a hug, though there was no one or nothing. So that was another feeling that I had. And after that, it really helped me recover a lot from my depression.
Yeah, I know. I recall, I know when my mom passed away, I was here, I was back in India, and I just came and landed back home, and she got admitted in the hospital, and within 8, 9 days, she passed away. And there was something within me that I knew that I will not get to see my mom. And I boarded the flight, and on the flight, I got this gulf of energy, like a very happy, vibrant energy, and I knew it was my mom.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I felt like, oh, she's transitioned. But my mind was like, no, don't even think about that. No, 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 you cannot think about that. But that feeling was just so much joyful energy
Yeah.
that I felt. And when I landed in India, I wasn't sad. And
Yeah.
everyone was like, cry. And I wasn't able to cry. And when we went to Haridwar to do all her rites and rituals, the whole journey, we had a whole bus full of relatives. Everybody was on the bus. And me and my brother felt mom with us on the bus. And he was like, he came to me and he's told me, Didi, is it weird that
Yeah.
I'm not feeling sad? I'm kind of happy. that mom has
Yeah.
transitioned, she's on her next journey, and it's a happy feeling to it. Is it weird too? And I'm like, I'm feeling the same. It's mom with us. It's mom who is, she was joyful. She was with us in the whole journey.
Mm.
So, and that led me to, understanding a lot more about how,
Mm.
and that was my whole curiosity about what happens to soul after it dies. Where do we go?
Mm.
What, like, is it just, do we just vanish in the nothingness, or is there still some spark left, or is it, so all of that
Yeah.
curiosity led to a lot of spiritual explorations after that. But well, with that, I would like to say that, Nita, I'm just so grateful for this conversation today. I know it was a rocky start with you jumping off, but I think it was just so beautiful, and you sharing all your journey and your learnings and just giving us a peek into how you dealt with all. Um, with that, I would want to open the floor for questions, and I'll also share all the links. So before anybody hops off, I'm sharing all the resources on how to connect with Nita. Nita is doing this amazing work, and she's helping spread more awareness on this. So, these are the links. And if you are on our WhatsApp group, we'll be posting the recording on our WhatsApp channel, and all these links will also be shared there. So join us on WhatsApp. But yeah, I'll open the floor for question, for reflection, or anything that stirred within you that you would want to share as we were discussing.
Maybe I can go.
Yes.
It's not a question, Neither. It's just a comment.
Mhm.
And I put this on chat, and I said that, hey, first of all, thank you for sharing all of this. What you shared was very emotional hearing, right?
Yeah.
From me sitting here, and very informative. And Sarika knows this, and others know this. I say this very often, that challenges come to people like who can handle them, and you're definitely one
Yeah.
of those brave souls who can navigate that, right? And you beautifully did that, right? Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you so much for your appreciation.
Hey, Nita, I just want to say it was very emotional and very informative too, and a lot of inspiration as well as guidance on how to deal with dementia. Thanks a lot.
And if you all want, if you all have any more questions, because obviously I couldn't share everything today. So if there are other questions, how to deal with different things and tests and whatever, please feel free to reach out.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question, if you have a moment.
Sure.
The question I have is, how did you go about getting a diagnosis on this? Because my mother is showing some kind of cognitive decline, but she's not losing any skills.
Yeah.
So we are not sure what's going on. I mean, is it something medical or whatever? So how did you go about getting a diagnosis for this? I mean, what set of the alarm, for example?
Yeah. So the thing is that for my father, he was showing signs. We didn't do any medical diagnosis then. But when he started having issues with his, like in the brain, he was having pain. There was a pressure buildup. And we went for different tests. None of them were giving the result. And finally, someone suggested going to a neurospecialist, and that's when he did PET scan, and we found white patches in his brain, meaning that the brain cells were dying. So that's how we found out for him through MRI. But if your mother is just forgetfulness and all, maybe she has normal aging, or maybe she is in the MCI stage where, and it is very important to do early diagnosis. So I'm glad that you are taking the necessary, your awareness is there that testing has to be done. So take her for.
I mean, we did get an analysis. So
And
initially we were wondering if it is just a case of depression. So I took her to a psychiatrist. He just asked her to repeat some stuff, and she could not repeat.
Oh,
And they said she had Alzheimer's. I mean, what kind of diagnosis is that? And I spoke to a
oh,
neuropsychologist who works at Stanford, and I have a friend who does research
yeah.
in Alzheimer's, and both of them like trashed it.
So I do not know if you're aware, recently blood test has come out. I can share with you. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of it, but what I understand, so there are a couple of things, right? We don't have a family history of dementia, as in
okay.
no one in my family has dementia.
Mhm.
From neither my mom's or my dad's. And my mom
But
said they live into 80s. My dad said it's like 90, mid 90s is the
but you do
lifespan.
realize dementia is not necessarily
Yeah, I know it can be, it
hereditary.
can also be
Yeah.
sporadic.
Yeah, it can be sporadic. And if she failed like, did you do the mini mental state exam? What kind of test did you all carry? MOCA test, MMSE test,
No,
or?
no, none of that stuff, actually. So
Okay,
I'm planning to I took a printout of Sega test. So I'm
okay.
planning to give my mother that
Yeah,
to understand what she is up to or what her level of understanding right now is.
yeah. It's important to not let it go through the cracks. So I'm glad you're on top of it to do that. And as I said, healthy lifestyle. Because even if you find there are
Yeah, I know it has
medication,
no cure, but
yeah. One thing I'll just call out: does your mother live in the US?
no, she lives in India. I wish
Okay.
she did because it's much easier for me. I can take her to a neuro psych evaluation here. I don't mind spending money,
Yeah,
get
and
tests and
also
other stuff,
she
but
could get involved in clinical trials that are running for these for early detection, and so you can participate in clinical trials and you get free medication for dementia, Alzheimer's, and so forth.
yeah, but I want to make at least get an idea that if it's
Yeah,
dementia, something else going on there.
yeah. So yeah,
Because she
uh,
does have a few other issues, like her B12 is a bit too low and other
oh,
stuff.
you know, vitamin deficiency, depression, these two are very big causes of cognitive issues. So it's not necessarily Alzheimer's. You should definitely test for vitamins and depression to rule them out before you jump into Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for answering my questions. Hopefully, a few others would have had the same questions as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully, it's helpful.
Right. Any more questions?
I just want to say thank you to Nita for showing us how to navigate this so gracefully and for preserving her father's dignity, showing us how important it is to be present, to be patient, and to preserve the person's dignity while going through this. So thank you very much, Nita.
Welcome.
Yeah. All right. I think this was a wonderful session. Thank you, Nita. Have a good night and take rest. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nicole.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
participating. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good
Take
night.
care. Good night.